New Springs, welcome. Another edition of Everyday Gospel. So our goal here is really just to have conversations with people as God's working in their lives, and especially in this time where we're in a pandemic and lots of hurt and despair going on. There's also a lot of good that's going on. So today, our guest is a good friend of mine, Jacob Toledo, who I got to teach back when he was in high school. I know it doesn't look that way. I look younger than he does, but that's cool. Um, and we've become good friends. And he just recently had a baby. Him and his wife had a little baby boy just a couple of weeks ago. So we're gonna chat about that. Jacob, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah. The name is the name. My name is Jacob Toledo. I met Gavin at Cold Springs Christian Academy when I went in my junior year. Actually, also where I met my wife also. Wife of, it'll be 5 years together next month.
Wow.
I was in Gavin's Bible class, so that's where we kind of built our relationship from there. We had some fun times in that class, for sure. But my father's actually a pastor also, a Spanish pastor in Cold Springs for First Presbyterian. I work in the restaurant industry. So does my wife. I'm a general manager for a Italian restaurant, and my wife was a bartender. Obviously, she's home now with our new baby boy. This has been such a crazy, even before this whole pandemic thing started. I mean, life already has its challenges, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like, again, in any situation, you can always find ways that you're going to grow out of it and not just get through it, but grow through it,
Yeah.
So definitely it's always been, again, my wife and I, sorry, a little bit of backstory. My wife and I, we started a business together about 4 years ago. Still have the business today. I mean, we're obviously, we still work hard at it. And, but this business really changed our life because it kind of took 2 kids out of high school, right? In that had, the rat race mentality of, get a job, 9 to 5, go to college, get a degree. And it changed our whole perspective on, what life could be, what life should be about, what's really important in life, that your job shouldn't be your label, and so Tatiana and I, we, coming out of high school, our life drastically changed just because of our association. And so early on, we learned that, that association is everything, and as cliche as that whole saying is, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. I believe nothing more than that, And so obviously, like the last 9 months prior, for her being pregnant, it was really something amazing because, working in the restaurant industry and owning a business that's online, it's very, very time consuming, and your months feel like hours. I mean, seriously, like the first year that we were married, it honestly felt like a couple months because we were just going, and so when we found out she was pregnant, obviously it wasn't necessarily planned per se, but it was. I remember the day that we actually found out. I remember that I didn't feel fear. I didn't feel anxiety. I didn't feel worrisome. I didn't feel anything like that. I just felt like this overwhelming presence of gratitude just because I knew that this was the perfect thing for my wife and I to become grounded again in what's important, And so, so that was huge for us. Obviously, knowing that she was pregnant was a big switch.
Yeah.
In our mindset also, even in that time, just because, obviously, knowing that you're gonna have a baby, a lot of things have to change, right? Like, your time that you have, obviously you want to make sure that, that your finances are going to be there, right? Because having a baby isn't the cheapest thing, right?
Right.
And so but honestly, I mean, it's just, I couldn't, like, everyone kept telling me, when you have a baby, you'll understand. And I was trying to understand before having a baby, what it would feel like. And now that he's here, if someone asked me, I couldn't explain it either, because it's like, people keep saying, when you have a baby, it's not about you anymore. Well, I couldn't relate, because when I got married, it wasn't about me anymore. And I'm not trying to sound cliche or whatever, but no, I mean, honestly, I did everything for my wife. I come second, my wife comes first, and
Yeah.
so I already had that thing going for me, where like I knew that it wasn't about me anymore.
Yeah.
But it's really something spectacular, having a child, because it's just like you just have this overwhelming feeling of gratefulness, overwhelming feeling that of like just a new life, and that it's totally up to you on the life that he's going to live, in a sense of his values, and that you're able to mold that, and you're able to potentially add one more good person to the environment, to the world, to the society. And it's very exciting. It's a little bit of pressure,
Of course.
because especially nowadays with social media, and how everything is very a lot different than it was when I was a kid, and I was only a kid a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Um,
So what's it been like, specifically?
It's been incredible, but yeah, I mean, that's a little bit about me, about, my wife, my baby. We live over in Pompano Beach. We love it. We love South Florida. A lot of opportunity. I mean, South Florida, there's definitely more expensive places to live, different states, and there's definitely cheaper states to live. So that's why I like Florida. It's kind of in the middle. It's not too expensive, but it's also not dirt cheap.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of opportunity in Florida, and we love it. We love Florida. We love the people. It's so diverse, from all different races, all different cultures. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
I kind of went on a little bit of rant there, but yeah.
So specifically in raising your son, tell us a little bit about, well, number one, his name. People are going to want to know his name.
Roman. Yeah, Roman.
Little Roman, right?
Yeah, Roman. Oh,
okay.
Yeah. Roman,
so tell, I've got my Roma shirt on. That's the closest thing
I love it, man. Well, technically the mic is covering after the A, so it looks like it's saying Roman.
Oh, so
if you just stay in the right position, stay right there. Yeah,
so it looks like it's Roman.
Yeah.
What's it been like raising little Roman in the middle of a pandemic? First baby, first son. We can't go anywhere. What's that like?
Well, I'll be honest with you. It's so funny, because when you go on YouTube, all you see is like negative stuff. It's like having a baby in the midst of a pandemic, like how tragic, And it's crazy, because like me and her will see that, and we'll just say, like, how is that tragic? Because Tatiana and I, my sister had a baby a while back. And I remember the first day that she gave birth, we all went there. Everyone's in your hospital room. Everyone's holding the baby. And don't get me wrong, it was an amazing time, right? I wouldn't trade it for anything. I love my niece, she's my everything. But there was no intimacy in that moment, So, thank God, I mean, I was able to be in the room with my wife, when she gave birth.
Yeah,
that's that would be something that would be tough. But I didn't have to experience that, thank God. But when the baby was born, it was just me and her. It was there was a moment, and I actually was thinking about this the other day. It's funny you asked that. There was a moment where, after she gave birth, and, all the doctors did what they had to do, they left the room, and it was about 12:30 in the morning, because, my wife gave birth at 11:37 on April 19th. And there was a moment where it was just me and her and our baby, right? The room was like an awkward, not awkward, but like it was like a weird lighting, right?
Yeah.
But it was just dead quiet. It was just quiet, and there was because obviously the hospitals nowadays, because of this pandemic, they're not taking in other people that are not there for COVID treatment, right?
Sure.
And so the hospital was just quiet, and it was the most amazing. I'm telling you, the most amazing thing. It was so intimate. It was just me and my wife and the baby. No. Again, obviously, I would love to have family there, but the current situation obviously didn't allow that. And I'm telling you, it was a blessing, because it was just so personal. was so intimate. It was amazing. You know, just me, my wife, and the baby for that period of time. And then we obviously went over to like the maternity postpartum area. And again, it was just us, you know, just us the whole night, you know, just me, her, and the baby. We got to just bond and really take in, you know, just how incredible this was, right? That we have a brand new baby boy that we've been dreaming about the last couple months leading up to her giving birth, you know, and just dreaming about, you know, what he's going to look like and smell like. And you know, so it really was, it was incredible. It really was. And, you know, obviously, you know, I would be lying if I didn't tell you that it's been sometimes, you know, emotional for her, just because, you know, her mother actually works with COVID patients. So her mother wasn't really able to come by at all as well.
That's hard.
But so it was a little hard for her, but at the same time, you know, even now we're on, he was a week old yesterday. It was his, you know, his week old birthday. And just having a week of just us three, right? Because first off, you know, let's be real, babies, it's honestly safer not to have much people around him. Right? Whether or not pandemic or not, you know, it's babies are susceptible to everything. Especially in the first 60 days, you know, before they can get their shots and whatnot. So, you know, this honestly is the best thing for him, right? It's just to have me and my wife, only ones that are around him, because we were around him when he was born, right? So obviously, you know, it's, you know, we didn't contract and give him. So, but it's been a blessing, man, because, you know, I'm telling you, I mean, I don't think anybody that didn't have a baby in this pandemic will ever experience that. Because family's always going to want to be there. You know, her mom and my mom would have been in the room while she gave birth because she wanted that. I wanted that also. But the fact that they weren't there, I'm almost kind of happy because it was a little more intimate, you know, with my wife while she was giving birth. And I loved it. And it's something that whenever I look at her, I think about it and it almost makes me cry because of how amazing it was, you know, and how personal it was. And obviously, I mean, we were blessed having amazing nurses. I mean, that's a different story, but yeah, I mean, it really was, you know, and you forget about the pandemic because again, you know, the pandemic, in my opinion, it's, as cliche as it sounds, it's perspective. Obviously there's a certain risk and a danger that it is real. Right. But at the same time, you know, I think that you can allow it to seep into rooms of your life that it doesn't belong. Like in that moment, there's no reason for me to be worried about a pandemic when I'm in the moment of my wife giving birth. We're in a sterile hospital room. And my son's about to be born, you know? So for me, it was incredible, man. And like I said, I don't think anybody who doesn't have a baby in this pandemic will ever experience that because again, family's going to want to be there. Family wants to come, you know, the next day they want to come and also help, you know, because don't get me wrong, it was a challenging 72 hours, man. I mean,
I'm sure.
Because she was in labor the whole day. I mean, she woke up on Sunday morning at like 5 a.m. going into labor. And mind you, we went to bed that night at like 2 a.m. So we slept for like only a handful of hours. She woke up with labor pains. We were in the hospital by 6:30, and she was in labor the entire day. And she gave birth at almost midnight, you know?
Long day. Nobody really prepares you for I remember before we had our first son, our first child, everybody kind of tells you what it's like a little bit to have a baby and you know, you're not sleeping and you're feeding. No one tells you what it's like to watch your wife go through an excruciating amount of pain for hours upon hours. What was that like for you watching that happen?
Oh, first off, it's made me gain 10 times the respect that I already had.
A lot of respect, right?
Right, because my wife is already a powerhouse. I mean, my wife, you know, she was working. She would have worked full time the day she gave birth if this thing wasn't happening, and you know, we had, you know, decided to close the restaurant because she would manage the floor, be all over the place. She would hop behind the bar if needed help. She's huge. I'm talking 8 months pregnant, you know, you know, huge, you know, in this little tight black shirt, just huge, you know, she's walling around, shaking, you know, drinks, you know, just, you know, going in the kitchen, you know, managing the floor. I mean, it was incredible. And I was already like, I mean, knowing her from high school, I knew how she was. You know, she's just very independent. She's very
Mhm.
strong. You know, and very strong-willed. But after this, I mean, it's you know, it's incredible. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like wow. You know, the respect, the love. I mean, the
Yeah.
relationship that we have. I mean, that moment of her giving birth, and again, how intimate that is. I mean, it was unreal. So yeah,
What would you
a
say
lot
out of
more.
the whole process that
Yeah,
you and your wife together,
yeah.
what's God teaching you and showing you about himself and about yourselves?
Um, well, I guess the one thing that always I think pops into my head is that ultimately it doesn't matter what's going on in the world, right? He's in control, right? So
Mm.
nothing's going to happen without his without him um, knowing about it, I guess, and allowing it to happen. So that was also a piece that we had, when it comes to, because obviously sometimes with babies there's complications. There's sometimes which there actually was a slight complication when he was born, that there was a specialist needed to be there. But the whole time, and this is just kind of some things that are instilled in me and in her growing up in the church. There's just kind of some definite things that you always feel. Just growing up in the church and growing up, in the Christian faith, there's just things that are like non-negotiables. We know that Jesus died for our sins. We know that God is always in control. Things that we just we always believe and that always come to the forefront of our minds when we're going through tough situations.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I mean, definitely during this time, he's definitely shown my wife and I. It was also kind of like a reality check. Because Tatiana and I, we got very, very into work, very, very into our business, and almost kind of like put life on the back burner in the sense where we kind of especially for myself, neglected our health,
Um,
neglected some friend time and some family time, because we were just so into our work. And I'll be honest, I mean, not for any means of greediness or anything like that, but because we love what we do and we are very driven um, on a set goal that we have.
yeah.
So having this baby and this whole situation has kind of made us look back and look at, how much life we really have in front of us. And even though sometimes when you're laser focused, you don't see it. When you take the blinders off, you really see that there's a lot of magnificent things happening in your life that you might not be noticing because you're just so focused. So especially having the baby, being home all the time now, being able to, talk to our parents all the time, being able to spend time together, me and her. We've definitely seen that as obviously a blessing, but also like a realignment almost.
Yeah.
That too much of anything isn't good, right? Even if it's too much work, even if you're, you know, your sales are good, or everything's up, or you're hiring more people. It still has to be that alignment, that balance. And
Yeah.
so I think that this is definitely putting us in the right perspective. And it's amazing because my wife and I, we kind of think about this pandemic as in our own personal sense, not for the world, but our own personal sense of that God is kind of pausing our life before and after, because obviously this happened before he was born. So you know the pandemic allowed us to be able to kind of not have too much going on before the baby came. So we had time to kind of reflect, to talk, to enjoy some time together before, essentially we would never just be me and her again. It's going to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
one, and then two, then three, God willing, four, so
Yeah.
it's definitely, so that was kind of our mindset that, this is our life is stopping for our son, and even now, I'm able to be off a little bit longer. I was gonna take off a couple weeks anyway, but I could essentially be off as long as I want right now, just because of things are slower, so I'm not really needed there.
Yeah.
It's able to be maintained by the employees that are there now, opposed to being. I mean, right now is peak season in restaurants. Mother's Day is coming up. I mean, right now is like all hands on deck.
Mm.
And it would be hard to take off that time. So, me being able to be off essentially till whenever the economy chooses to reopen, it's amazing, and I'm really grateful for that, so.
Yeah, and I'd say it's we'll close up here in a sec, but I'd say it's very important So for those of you listening, for Jacob here as well, in the midst of trouble, our Savior and our Lord Jesus Christ, he never promises that trouble's not going to come, right? It's a promise actually that trouble will come. But when we do face it, it's important to be able to see the comfort, the grace, and the goodness of God that he offers and he provides. And so being able to take those little intimate moments, it's beautiful what you shared about having that time, just you, your wife, and your son in the hospital together, being able to take that and saying, this is a gift from God in the midst of all this craziness. So my encouragement to you is hold on to that. That's God, God showing you just how much he loves you, he loves your family, and he's got you guys in the midst of it all. So last thing I'll ask for you is how can I and how can we as a church be praying for you guys in this season?
Essentially, just for health, man, for health, for my wife, like I said, it's a little bit of emotional time for her. Now that the smoke has settled, with a new baby and everything, her not being able to see her family, it's a little tough for her, so just for peace for her, that she would be able to get through this time and allow me to be able to comfort her the best I can. But also just for the health, health of the baby, for her as she's in some recovery. She is what she ran through when I went through. I got like a sore bicep from just holding her up. That's all I got from the.
Don't tell her that, man. Don't tell her about your bicep. She does not care about your bicep right now.
I know she does not. Yeah. No worries, But yeah, man. Just for health and that's the most important thing. Thankfully God's got us on everything else, and everything has been awesome, but definitely just health and just, to be able to provide us with that calmness that she can get through these next couple of weeks until she's able to see her family and hug her mom and my mom as well, but I mean, that's pretty much it though. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We'll be praying for that in church, just so you know, it's Tatiana, Jacob's wife. So we'll be praying for her health and that family to get back together. So well, Jacob, we love you, man. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you. I know you got a busy schedule, working full time, and got the new baby and a wife to take care of. Overtime, man. Yeah. So thanks for sharing all that with us. We love you and we're praying for you.
Thank you, Gavin. Yeah, man. Love you too, man. You take care.
All right, you take care, brother.